Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
It does indeed. I say good morning. You might be listening in the afternoon, so good day wherever you may be. Today is People's Poll Day. We haven't done a People's Poll for a little while because of all the fixtures and everything that we've been juggling in between, but we are back with People's Poll. Everybody was so kind enough to vote yesterday. Hundreds of people, James. Do you want to run down 448 to be precise? Do you want to run down the options and then we can get into the winner?
Not bad considering every non-Nick Pope owner was hiding from Twitter yesterday.
He's
still trending, by the way.
I really, really hate that agony and ecstasy before a game week is finished. It's like on Saturday, I could have quite easily piped up and said, "Ha ha, Jimenez is blanked," but I would have then, like, if I was poking at owners, then straight away 2 days later or a day later, Ings has hauled. So then what am I going to do? Because I just sold Ings, and then you've got Pope. I just think you've got to wait until the game week's done. Bruno Fernandes goes mental tonight and scores a hat trick. Nothing could destroy my game week after that, you know. Martinez keeps a clean sheet tomorrow.
He might go mental and come on for the final 15 minutes and not do a lot. That might be his mental. So I think he'll start, as we said yesterday.
You just don't. You do. I get it. Look, Pope's done well. Ings has done well. You can't be upset if you own both of them. You've got to be happy. But for those that don't own them, just wait. Like I've still got 8 players to go this week.
The ones that should be rubbing their hands together are the ones that have been brave enough to captain Aubameyang.
Well, you can't say that because he hasn't played yet.
So the fear for them wasn't whether he would or wouldn't return against Norwich. The fear for them is whether he's going to start. You know he's going to start now. I mean, it would be a huge, huge shock if he doesn't start for Arsenal tomorrow now.
Yep. So, shall we get into the answers? What were the options, for People's Poll?
So, 4 options was some analysis, some Planet FPL review of games as we normally do on our main pods. So one option was to review the first 3 games of this game week, which, don't worry, we'll now do it on Friday instead.
Yep.
Another option was to review the 4 FA Cup games from the weekend. Another option was to have a look at the 2020-2021 calendar, which has finished second in the vote. Therefore, we're going to do that for patrons today. If you are thinking of signing up to Patreon, please don't do it till tomorrow. Tomorrow's first of the month, and this podcast that we do today will not date. And the winner is having a little closer look at game weeks 36 and 37 in the schedule, because although we don't have the TV fixtures yet, I believe we can have some fairly concrete guesses at what's going to happen. And then you can look at things like spacing between days. And I think we can incorporate a little bit of ideas behind chip strategy in terms of if you want to use any of these around then.
Yeah, of course. So we know all the fixtures up to game week 35. It's just 36, 37 we don't know. And obviously 38, everybody plays at the same time, as per usual. So 36 and 37 are the 2 that we're waiting for. What are the deciding factors in which teams play when? Is it cup games?
A little bit
and around,
and spacing. So the FA Cup semi-finals will be on the weekend that is scheduled for game week 37. So obviously the 4 teams plus their opponents in that weekend are going to get moved to the midweek following. So we'll have a game week which is quite long, most likely running from Saturday to Thursday, like the current game week that we're in now. That's the only occurrence where that's likely to happen again. The one curveball we should possibly just mention briefly, because we get a lot of questions in terms of, is there likely to be more double game weeks, etc. And we keep saying no, unless something happens with COVID. Mm-hmm. And there is a situation at the moment at Leicester, which is obviously very worth keeping its eye on.
Yep. The City's gone back into lockdown.
City's back into lockdown. Now, we think, to clarify, that there really shouldn't be any effect on the football team at the moment. I think the worst case scenario that we'd be looking at currently under the circumstances is that Leicester would not have home games that would be played on a neutral venue. But unless there's an issue with the Leicester team, there's no reason why the games won't just continue.
I agree. I don't think they're just moving to Birmingham City or wherever. Really, there's loads of stadiums in and around that they can play at.
They've got
and when there's no fans, who cares?
They've got exactly. And as we've seen, home advantage. I mean, what does it matter? They've got a load of venues apparently all around the country, which they're happy to use as neutral venues. The club's already aware of what those venues are, even though we don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not impossible that Leicester and Palace would be moved this game week from the King Power. I don't think it will be, by the way. But even still, if it was, does it change your thinking on anything? Not really. No. So there's no real impact from that perspective. The four favourites obviously went through in the FA Cup. Sheffield United fans might beg to disagree with that, but let's say the four bigger clubs that you would expect to see at this stage of the competition have all gone through.
Sheffield United can disagree if they want. If you beat them on Thursday, James, it's the first time Chris Wilder will have lost 4 games in a row.
Is that correct? In his managerial career, or just Sheffield United?
For Sheffield United. United. I'm not sure about his managerial career, but for Sheffield United, it's the first time they'll have lost 4 on the bounce. So, yeah, they've got work to do there. But yeah, Arsenal, Chelsea, City, and Manchester United come through. I saw my cousin yesterday, who's an Arsenal fan. I said, "Did you watch the FA Cup?" So I watched bits of it. I said, "Well, you won a game away. You should have watched it." She goes, "Yeah. And what? We've just drawn City in the next round. So what's the point?"
Their happiness lasted all of about 3 hours, didn't it?
Yeah, until they drew City. I have to say, I was like, to be fair, yeah.
Completely bizarre that the draw for that was made at half time of the Manchester City game. Really bizarre.
I think it's because Shearer was there in the draw and they wanted the joy of him being able to pull Newcastle out of the hat. Because if they'd done it after the game,
going to make it.
If they'd done it after the game, he wasn't going to have that pleasure. So maybe.
I mean, my thinking was, give them bastards Man City was absolutely my thinking. And as soon as I see Chelsea Man United, I didn't even hang around to see what the other 2 balls were. That would do for me. I mean, not that I didn't know, but yeah, that's what I wanted. And it's worth saying just briefly on that, it makes an extremely difficult week for Arsenal. They'll now have Tottenham on the Sunday in the Premier League, Liverpool in the Premier League on the Wednesday, Manchester City in the FA Cup semi-final on the Saturday. Those 3 massive games for Arsenal in the space of 6 days. That's worth bearing in mind. The reason we know Arsenal and Manchester City will be on the Saturday is because Manchester United semi-final has to be on the Sunday. And that's because if we take a step back and look at game week 35, Manchester United and Southampton play each other on the Monday night. Therefore, we can say now with 99% certainty that Crystal Palace and Manchester United in game week 36 will be on a Thursday night.
Yep.
Therefore, Manchester United semi-final with Chelsea will be on a Sunday. And therefore, Manchester United and Chelsea's game week 37 matches will have to move to the Wednesday or the Thursday, the following game week. And this is where we can start piecing the puzzle. And it's interesting this for Sky players to work out what games will go where, because the Manchester United fixtures, certainly game week 36, that's 99%. It will be Palace and United on a Thursday night. And there are a few other knock-ons. So as I already said, Arsenal and Liverpool will definitely be the Wednesday night. They're going to have to play Sunday in the Premier League, Saturday in the FA Cup. So Arsenal-Liverpool has to sit there.
Wednesday, correct.
Good news for that from a Liverpool perspective also is a nice break between 36 and 37. People keep worrying about the spacing of days for them. Actually, in that period there, it's going to be quite nice for them to have a break, and the Wednesday's quite suitable as well. There's only 2 games that can take place on the Tuesday, the 14th of July. Those are Chelsea versus Norwich and West Ham versus Watford. And that's because of the 10 fixtures in game week 36. At least one of the teams involved in 8 of the fixtures plays on the Sunday or the Monday. And therefore, to maintain the constant of at least 3 days break, those are the only 2 fixtures that can go on the Tuesday. Now, it doesn't mean that both of them will definitely go on the Tuesday, but it seems to make very strong reason that one will be at 6 o'clock, one will be at 8:15. We have obviously seen this week where there's only one Tuesday night fixture, but then that's where the game week is spread over 7 days. This is a full set of midweek fixtures.
Yeah.
So it seems to make common sense. Those 2 games will be on the Tuesday.
That's Chelsea, Norwich, West Ham v Watford.
Correct. And for the FPL players, that's your likely team news league is one of those two games. I would have thought West Ham Watford would probably be the earlier kickoff, but it could go either way. That would be a
I mean,
pure
it's tricky
guess.
to know if both teams are still in and about that relegation. Then obviously there's going to be much more riding on the West Ham Watford game than there will on the Chelsea Norwich game. Chelsea could be clear of top four, and Norwich could be relegated by game week 36. So it could be that that's a bigger game, West Ham Watford, but we'll see.
Well, they're probably going to have to pick it now. There's a chance we'll know these fixtures before the weekend in terms of confirmation now. Also means because of Arsenal and their situation, it means Manchester City semi-finals, as I said, it's the Saturday. That means their fixture with Bournemouth will definitely be the Wednesday night as well, basically. And it does maintain this theme of Manchester City and Liverpool playing on the same day. It means that all of their fixtures between 33 and 36 will be on the same day, which is probably quite important to Sky players, for example, from a captaincy perspective. The rest of the games, we know, so that's Burnley, Wolves, Everton, Villa, Leicester, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Tottenham, can't be on the Tuesday. They can be on the Wednesday or the Thursday. I also think there's a small possibility that one of these fixtures could be on a Friday. And one of those that might be is the other fixture I haven't mentioned, which is Southampton-Brighton. Now, that can't be played earlier than the Thursday. I think there's a small possibility that one of those 5 fixtures I mentioned could be a Friday. Now, from an FPL perspective,
people would have to play the Monday. Those teams would then be on a Monday.
Absolutely, or later. I wouldn't have thought so, but I think
there's a gap in the midweek. Afterwards.
I think it would mean Friday and Monday fixtures. Yes, you're most likely. We've seen that sort of thing happen at the end of the season before. We've seen it happen where Everton and Watford was put on a Friday night to enable Chelsea to play their 2 games in the 16-17 season on a Friday and a Monday to have space in where they got as much TV coverage as they could. This is slightly different, bearing in mind that all the games are obviously on TV. But I just wonder if there's a small possibility that one of those midweek games could get moved to a Friday. And I think the most likely would be Southampton-Brighton. But they did specify at the start that Friday games would be for weekend games. Now, if that's the case, there won't be a Friday game that game week because there's nothing from that weekend set of fixtures that could be brought forward to the Friday. It just doesn't work. The knock-on effect, obviously, is the game week 37, as I said, will be spread from the Saturday till the Thursday. Now, if the games go the way I'm thinking, there's only 3 fixtures that could possibly be on the Saturday. That's Norwich v Burnley. Norwich, interestingly, have the next 2 Saturdays with 12:30 p.m. kickoffs. Sheffield United versus Everton and Tottenham versus Leicester. If, for example...
Only 3 could be on that Saturday in your opinion.
As it stands now, the way it looks to me, that's how I'd read it, yeah.
Okay.
Because
they'll play on the Wednesday and then they can play on the Saturday, basically.
The 4 games influenced by the FA Cup semi-finals, which are Villa v Arsenal, Liverpool v Chelsea, Manchester United v West Ham, and Watford versus Manchester City, all will have to move to the midweek. So the 2 involving obviously Arsenal and Man City, as we know they're on the Saturday, could be on the Tuesday. Whereas Liverpool and Manchester United's respective fixtures won't be until at least the Wednesday. You probably got one of them on the Wednesday, one of them on the Thursday. That's where I'd see that fitting. If Leicester and Sheffield United in game week 36 was moved to the Thursday, for example, then Norwich and Burnley is literally the only game that could take place on the Saturday.
Right.
And it's not beyond reason that we'd end up with that sort of position because we've just had that.
We just had it.
With Villa and Wolves.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, 1 game on the day.
You would think they'd probably want a better spread of fixtures, bearing in mind they can obviously use the 3 o'clock slot on the Saturday. From a television perspective, obviously they'll show the FA Cup semi-finals. BT will have a game and BBC will have a game.
Yeah, but they normally nowadays kick off a bit later, right? You're talking about 5 o'clock, 5:15,
I would have thought the FA Cup semi-finals would most commonly probably be BBC will want the 5:30 on the Saturday. So I think they'll probably want Arsenal and Man City. And United and Chelsea will probably be 4 o'clock on the Sunday. And Sky, notoriously, historically, have not had an issue going up against these fixtures. Yeah. So there's every chance that Sky will still stick Sheffield United against Everton at the same time as Man City and Arsenal, for example, to try and nick some of the viewers back from the BBC or BT, for example.
Yep.
But it means probably quite a quiet Saturday from a Premier League perspective. And then there's a knock-on effect where basically Bournemouth, Southampton, Brighton, Newcastle, Wolves, Palace from the previous midweek fixtures can't really be before the Sunday.
Yep.
One of them is likely to be a Monday, which for Sky players is particularly important because it can have a knock-on effect for single game days. That's why I mentioned Brighton and Southampton as a possibility for the Friday night, because it works in the schedule as those two respective games on the weekend have to be a Sunday, that they could go on the Monday, 1 at 6, 1 at 8. It's not part of the initial plan. And I think to move the games further back in the midweek is unlikely because you've got some headline teams playing in that midweek. It probably makes sense to keep them separate. I mean, I think they'll probably want Liverpool and Chelsea to be a standalone night, I would have thought. Probably the Wednesday night, let them have the title celebrations, maybe an earlier kickoff, 7 o'clock or something. From the FPL perspective, to concentrate on these 2 game weeks and to incorporate chips, the constant question Suj and I keep getting is, when's a good time to use your bench boost?
Free hit or
when's
bench
a good
boost?
time to use your free hit? And I'm afraid to say, keep breaking it to you, there aren't any great solutions, and it really is dependent on your team. We had a patron on Slack, Dylan, who was asking us about whether the bench that he had, if it was a good game week to bench boost coming up in game week 33.
Yeah.
And his bench looked quite decent. The one real drawback was that he had Alex McCarthy as his sub goalkeeper, and they're playing Man City. And I was like, you probably want to wait on a better Southampton fixture, if I'm very honest with you. I think for those with the wild card left and bench boost, for example, if you're trying to set that up, don't wait too long. That's the one bit of advice I'd give you, because the thing with game week 37, in terms of the fixtures and picking up some fodder, the fixtures look a little bit better. The problem is you've got the same nightmare scenario that we've had this week with rotation and stuff. So I think, therefore, 37 is a bad week for bench boost and free hit, personally.
Yeah.
The fact that the 36 game week falls in between a tight schedule, as you would have heard for a lot of teams already, I think also makes it quite avoidable. For example, Arsenal, if they have a bad run of results in the league, are they going to rest players against Liverpool before the FA Cup semi-final? You'd have to think that's a possibility.
Yeah, and they should as well. They've still got the opportunity to win a trophy there with the FA Cup.
Well, let's just say hypothetically they're 12th, which I'm sure they won't be, and the season really is completely finished. It's the sensible solution for them would be to rest players against Liverpool. Fans ain't going to let them rest players against Tottenham, are they?
No, for sure. That's still going to be a big derby game.
So 36 as a full midweek there is at a risk. I think 35 is probably the best for bench boosters. Probably. But I'm working on that basis that a wild card's going to be used first. Otherwise, I think it's very dependent to your own situation. The reason I mentioned 35 is you can get in some cheap crap that's got some decent fixtures. So, for example, Watford and Newcastle play each other. And in the previous games, you could leave Newcastle on the bench against Man City while you play your Watford players against Norwich, for example. You can have them in for 2 weeks. West Ham and Norwich play each other. If you want to aim for your cheaper guys to push you up to a bench boost, I genuinely think the best solution for those who haven't used a wild card and bench boost at the moment is to take the sort of strategy that I did and sacrifice some premium guys and get yourself a real good flood of budget. So a forward line like Ings, Calvert-Lewin, Jimenez, for example, and then flooding in defenders at all kind of a premium value, your Dohertys, Trents, Laportes, that kind of value. Once you add in perhaps 1 or 2 of like a Lascelles, Fabianski in goal, those sort of things, then budget-wise you can probably make it work. That's where I'd be heading for a wild card 34 for a bench boost 35, I think.
The biggest challenge
there's not great solutions.
The biggest challenge I have that stopped me pulling the trigger so far is Arsenal. So a lot of people will be in a boat where they've picked up Martinez because he's the cheapest playing goalkeeper for a decent enough side, and will have one of Saka or Nketiah as their cheap enabler, and both are decent enablers. But if you've got two Arsenal, and let's say both of those guys are on the bench, Wolves, followed by Leicester, followed by Spurs, followed by Liverpool, they're not. I don't want to bench boost with two Gooners with those four fixtures. Excuse me. Then you're into 37, which is Villa, which seems fine, but like you've just said, it's a bit of a risk to leave it that late. But there's no issue with me downgrading someone to upgrading Nketiah. Martinez is Martinez. You stick with him regardless.
If
And maybe
you've
Leicester is
you've still got yours left, don't you?
My what? Bench boost?
Yeah.
Correct.
So what have you got left, Chips?
Bench boost.
That's it.
Correct.
So your free hits gone, all that. You got bench boost left.
Free hit I used when we came back.
Who's your other keeper?
Fabianski.
See, the problem is you could look at game week, and I talked about this as being a very good rotation. The problem is Martinez is a great filler for that Villa fixture in 37, but then Fabianski's got Manchester United.
The one that's the best looking fixture for Arsenal probably is Leicester, the Leicester game at home. I reckon if they pack the midfield, if they kiss and make up with Guendouzi and Xhaka, then maybe they can stifle the space for Leicester, and they stand a chance there. And Leicester not in great form at the moment, so maybe that might be the one to take a gamble on the Gooners for. But we'll see, because then in that same game week, City have got Newcastle, Man United have got Villa, and Liverpool have got Brighton. That's the week to just fill my boots.
The best on paper, if you want to play the two goalkeepers there in a bench boost, is unfortunately it's game week 38, where Arsenal have got Watford and West Ham have got Aston Villa. That's the best on paper. And I do think that you probably should aim for a bench boost where your keepers have two good fixtures that are capable of clean sheets. You get a lot of people saying, "Oh, yeah, well, your bench boost will be your three players with the least points." You can't pick two goalkeepers together, can you? So aim for one where there's a strong possibility of clean sheets. And obviously, there's more knocking about than normal. So I wouldn't overly stress about it. But 38 is bad for a bench boost, mate. I'm afraid.
I'm not leaving it that late. I really think 34, I may play my bench boost in 34, which I'll have two free transfers going into it to make a couple of manoeuvres, downgrade somebody. Inevitably, there's going to be an injury between now and then that I'm going to have to deal with. So I'll use my two free transfers. I'm not scared to take a hit in that game week as well. And then on we go.
I think for me, with just free hit left, I'm very much heading towards 38 now. And the reason for that is the fixtures of Manchester United and Wolves on the final day. Also not knowing if they will or won't have anything to play for. So Manchester United play Leicester, Wolves play Chelsea.
Yeah,
that's tough enough, I think, for me to probably want to move away to different things on a free hit where, I don't know, for example, you might need to beat Villa on that final day to stay up. Everton and Bournemouth, for some reason, is the game that sticks out to me as might be a bit of a car crash on that final day, for example. Brighton play Burnley on the final day. You can get a few cheapies in there. Might be a clean sheet, for example. You could target cheap Arsenal against Watford. If you know what they've gone with in the previous game weeks, for example, you might want to target Tottenham against a Palace side that are unlikely to have anything to play for. And then you hammer into the premiums of what you think on the day is best for Man City against Norwich and Liverpool against Newcastle. So if I'm going from a split where I've got quite balanced, where I've got difficult benching choices every week, for me to then remove the United and Wolves players in 38, I then need to split that to go for more power and cheaper. Yeah. And that'll work for me on a free hit. But that's just the best solution for me. I can't sit here and tell you there is any right or wrong solutions on chip strategy. It's all going to be completely dependent on personal preference. The one thing I did say on one of the pods last week was, if you feel like the time is right for a bench boost, don't hesitate, just do it. It's going to be the best way to go because it's so dependent on what's in your squad, honestly.
Indeed. Yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in to our People's Poll. I hope that the careful planning and plotting that James has done allows you to think about where you are going to take your trip strategy or what fixtures might be subject to more rotation. It is still 3 or 4 weeks away, so you don't need to stress too much about it. But this is that weird time of the season now, James, where like next game week's 33, and then it's like 4 game weeks left, and you start feeling, what am I going to, when you go on holiday for 2 weeks or what have you, you get to the last 2 or 3 days and you start thinking, what am I going to do when it's all over and like back to normal or work, or this is not here anymore? I'm at that like home straight kind of feeling with this season. And the fact that we come back from the lockdown and that first week was a kick in the nuts. Just kind of seeing it through now. It's going to be
Champions League's back the week after the FA Cup final, mate. So
it certainly is.
From that perspective, there's not really a break for the clubs back in Europe.
No. You guys have got a tie left?
No, we're out, fam.
Oh, you're out.
You're smiling your head off for. You fucking look forward to commentary next year.
You had Leipzig. You lost to Leipzig, right?
Yeah, they battered us, mate. Yeah.
So, there we go. It'll be interesting. I'm more interested to see how Wolves do in the Europa League, Champions League. Crack on, everybody.
Wolves will have a great opportunity of doing well.
I'm so excited for that. So let's see. If you are interested in listening to our other podcasts that are Patreon exclusive, you can head over to patreon.com/PlanetFPL. Now, word of advice, as James mentioned earlier, it bills on the 1st of the month and today's the 30th. So don't buy it today because you'll only end up having to pay us again tomorrow. But do sign up tomorrow because all of the Patreon podcasts are still available to you once you've signed up. And today's Patreon will still be available as well. And we produce 5 shows a week for our patrons, as well as articles, as well as access to our Slack channel, which is very active, and a whole host of other fun and games that we do with the members of our community there. So that's always open to you. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, whether it's iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, and share it with any FPL playing friends, family, frenemies, whatever they may be, mini league contenders.
As if.
Yeah, exactly. For all the people that do tweet us and they're like, thank you for helping me win my mini league. Just tell all your mini league friends.
Do you know who my favourite people on Twitter are? My favourite people on Twitter are the people who won't like the podcast, won't retweet the podcast, so they think there's too much good information in there. They're my favourite people.
Oh, fantastic. Guys, stay safe, stay tuned. We'll be back at you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday, so we have Sky Fantasy Football for you then. Ciao for now.
Be nice to each other, everyone. Good luck tonight. Cue music, man, child.